Nope.
Let me start by thanking everyone for their concern and advice. Sorry for a late update. Everything just happened so fast. Hopefully I won't have to update again. After I heard the garage open, I quickly looked up towards the strange woman. Our eyes met for the briefest moment. She broke her gaze and turned her head. She too heard the sound of the garage door. Without making a sound, she walked out of my sight in the direction of the stairs. For a moment, it felt like I had awoken from a nightmare. I had a sense of relief flush over me, as if everything that had just happened was just my imagination. Luckily, my parental instinct kicked back into full gear as I leapt out of bed and headed to the door. I turned the corner and saw nothing. I dashed for the garage, slapping every light switch I passed in order to rid my house of darkness. I turned the last corner before colliding with another long-haired figure. I let out a short but aggressive yelp and jumped back, arms stretched out in front of me. "Ow, Dad, what the hell was that?" I heard my daughter ask from the ground. I had knocked her over. "Oh, Jennifer, it's just you." I breathed a sigh of relief. "Yeah, dude, who else were you expecting?" She got up and collected herself. I turned on every other remaining light and checked every corner of the house. Jennifer stood nearby, watching me in confusion. "Dad, what the heck is going on?" she finally asked. I eventually realized that the woman was nowhere to be found. All the doors were locked, but there were a few windows opened. She must have come in and out that way. I locked them and went to hug my daughter. "I just thought I heard something when I was sleeping, hon," I lied. I figured there was no point in scaring her if the woman was gone. Jennifer hugged me back and laughed. We said goodnight and headed upstairs. I decided I would look around another few minutes, just to ease my own mind. I was just about to call it quits when I heard Jennifer screaming for me from her bedroom. I dashed up like a madman up the stairs and burst through her door. She was at her window, frantically waving me over. I got to her side. My wife had awoken at this point and also entered the room. The three of us gathered at the window. In our backyard stood the woman. With our porch light on, I was able to get a better look at her. Her hair was long, very long, almost to her waist. It was black and matted with a couple of random braids and sloppy ponytails protruding in different directions. Her skin was pale. Blisters and sores covered her all over. She was wearing a black tank top and a long black skirt. She was sporting the same psychotic smile as before. As soon as she saw me, her arm began to slowly raise up until she was pointing at me. Her smile grew into an open-mouthed grin. I saw she was missing several teeth, and the teeth that she still had were yellow and rotten. My wife was watching in shock and terror. Her mouth was wide open and she covered it with one hand. She eventually turned to me and loudly asked, "Who the hell is that?" I looked at her and told her I didn't know. "Guys," whimpered Jennifer. We both turned to her. She was still looking out of the window. Her former look of awe and borderline amusement was replaced with absolute dread. I looked back at the woman in our backyard. She was still pointing, but now it was at Jennifer. Her grin was overtaken by a grimace. Her eyes were squinted in rage. She began screaming in short, high-pitched bursts. Jennifer was covering her mouth in shock. We were all speechless and unsure what to do. Due to all the screaming, our neighbors' lights began to turn on one by one before they came out to investigate the source of the commotion. When the crazed lady saw all her new spectators, she quieted down. With one last menacing gaze at my daughter, she turned around and ran back into the darkness. I grabbed Jennifer, who was now in tears, and hugged her. A few minutes later, we heard a knock at the door. It was the police. They had been called by one of the neighbors, I assumed. We explained what had happened in the backyard. I pulled one officer aside and told him that she had even gotten into the house, but I was hoping not to let the other two know. He looked at me in shock and agreed to look around. Of course, he couldn't find any obvious entry point and, like me, blamed it on an open window. He told me he would stay outside the house for a couple hours with his partner, which put me at ease. That was the end of it. I know it's cliche, but I can't help but think this isn't over. That woman knew where we lived. She was able to find a silent and discreet way to enter the house, despite her obvious insanity. I'm scared for my family. I'm scared for myself. My daughter already carries around mace and a small knife. As I said, I worry about her, so I make sure she's ready to defend herself. But I went ahead and also bought her a small taser. One for my wife, too. I really hope this was the end of it, but if anything else happens, I'll be sure to let you guys know.